main reason for being here today is to welcome Maggie Craig to Aberdeen and to the Central Library. Thinking about your novels, quite a few of which are set in the cities, principally Glasgow, not only Glasgow, but principally Glasgow. And I wasn't sure when I was thinking of what I wanted to say by way of introduction, I wasn't sure whether you would, quite how you would want them described. There's often a love story woven through. How would you describe them yourself?
I would describe them as a cross between love story and social history.
Right.
It's a very vexed question, those of us who get called romantic novelists.
Yeah.
And we have great problems about this description,
Yeah.
because it tends to imply something pink and fluffy.
Yeah.
And pink and fluffy my books ain't. I quite like the description of romance and more, which means there's lots of other things going on. I think most of my books are actually rite of passage books, because they're about usually a girl, but also the main male protagonist. They're about a girl struggling to make her way and often to find her creativity and express her creativity. And I think an awful lot of genre fiction includes books of depth and complexity, and I think people ought to respect them more really. It's kind of a losing battle, but maybe we're getting there. So I suppose I would say they're love stories.
But going further back then into childhood, were you a keen reader? How did you start?
My family were just an ordinary family. My father was self-taught, a real one who left school early, a voracious reader. I had two sisters and a brother, and we all read. We always all had our heads in a book, and we would share books. And my parents would read books and get really enthusiastic about them. I don't know if I should say this because I might get lynched. I only read Sunset Song last year. You might want to lynch me. So there were always books in the house. We had a wee house which was filled to the gunnels with books. This battered old book is the book. When Ken asked me to do this, I thought, what a treat to be able to talk about the books you've always loved to read. And I started making a list, and as you can imagine, the list got very, very long. And I thought, well, how about the books that really made an impact on me? If I look back on my childhood, what are the books I think about, apart from The Flight of the Herring? And this is falling apart, and at some point, the junior me has been playing at libraries, because there's a wee ticket in there to stamp it. And it was, it says, to Ian, wishing you a very happy Xmas from Auntie Doreen and Uncle Percy 1945. Now we don't have those people in our family, so this must have been a second-hand book. And it was published during the war, 1943, 1944, 1945. This is Selkie, there's the fisherman. And you know how the Selkie goes and becomes his wife, and he hides her skin, and then eventually she has to go back to the sea. This is the book. If I think back on what was influencing me, it was this book. I love those sort of stories where people are going through their normal life and then something very strange and wonderful happens. So that's romantic in the old-fashioned sense of the word, isn't it? It was a day that called to those who sat indoors with their goose quill pens in their hands to drop all such dull contrivances and to come out into the warm spring sunshine. The birds were filling the air with their song. Thomas the Rhymer of Ercildoune, biting the feathers from his quill pen because the verses would not come, flung it down in despair, pushed back his great oaken chair into the patch of sunlight that streamed through the window, and felt the sun warm on his face, and sniffed the fragrance of earth and flowers that flowed in with the sun-warmed air, and in a moment he was on his feet, and only taking time to snatch his little harp from the wall where it hung, he ran down the stairs from his room in the grey tower, down through the cold imprisoning walls, away from the quill pen and the troublesome verses, and out into the sunshine of the spring world. "'Tis a day for living," said he, "there is magic in the air." And I think it's really interesting, because only when I thought what you'd asked me to do, and I thought, yeah, that's been really significant to me.